Angel Chakma's father recounts brutal attack and racial slurs as outrage grows over the killing. Chief Minister of Uttarakhand Pushkar Singh Dhami assures justice closely monitors the case. Union Minority Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju speaks exclusively to CNN News 18 over Angel Chakma's horrific killing, says such deep-rooted racism towards people from the northeast is a mental disease. Justice for Unnao rape survivor chorus grows. Supreme Court stays Delhi High Court order granting suspension of sentence to rapist Kuldeep Singh Sengar. CNN News 18 reportage forces action amid massive uproar. Supreme Court puts November 20th Aravalli Hills judgment in abeyance. Karnataka Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivkumar doubles down over demolitions in Karnataka, says action against illegal land grabbers will continue. Slams Kerala Chief Minister for politicizing the issue. Ideology takes a backseat in Maharashtra as politics of survival takes centre stage after Thackre's and Pawar's Congress gets into an alliance with the MNS for civic polls in Solapur. Truck topples over, flattens an SUV in Uttar Pradesh's Rampur, killing the driver on the spot. Horrific incident triggers crippling jams on the key state highway. Karnataka Chief Minister reignites the Hindi imposition debate, says he doesn't oppose Hindi but centers trying to impose it on the people of Karnataka, vows to fight for Kannada pride. It's the same story every single winter, every single year. This time around in the national capital, we talk about how there is poisonous air in the atmosphere. It's the Delhi NCR region that is breathing in this poisonous air. And this time around, the end of 2025 is also marked by exactly that. Delhi continues to choke under toxic air. The national capital recorded air quality in the hazardous category, the overall AQI touching 403 according to the Central Pollution Control Board. There are 19 monitoring stations that reported air quality in the severe range. Anand Vihar in the national capital topped the charts with 459 that is believed to be hazardous. There is a cold wave that's gripping the national capital as well. Mercury is dipping, which means the air quality is only going to get worse. There is fog coupled with the pollution, making it smog, and that has delayed flights at the Delhi airport. Some trains have also been delayed at the New Delhi railway station. The Delhi airport and Indigo have also issued travel advisories for passengers for over 100 flights that have been cancelled so far. We've been taking stock of what exactly has been happening here in the national capital. This is a report my colleague Shrishti sent us earlier today.
As we approach the new years, the air in the national capital has turned toxic once again. The air quality index has been recorded to be severe, that is over 400 in at least 25 stations across the city according to the Central Pollution Control Board. Over the last 2 days, the wind speeds have decreased and the unfavorable weather conditions are leading to a spike in the pollution levels across the city. Now this comes amid dense forecast across northwest India. Entire northwest India is enveloped in dense foggy conditions, but here in the national capital, this fog combines with the high amount of pollution in the air to create water smog. Now we are outside this AQI monitoring stations at ITO, which actually gives you a glimpse of the high amount of pollution that you breathe. Now this tells you what you're really breathing at this precise moment, which is high amount of PM10, PM2.5, SO2 and NO2. These are toxic gases which can impact your respiratory system. People, especially those who are suffering from other ailments, especially respiratory issues, can really face issues if they stay outside for a long period of time. Now, the stage 3 of the Graded Response Action Plan, which is an emergency response, has already come into effect across the entire city. Remember, it's been almost 2 months since the national capital has been facing these air quality issues. Now, as you can see behind me, the visibility has significantly reduced over the last few hours. Several places in the national capital region have reported visibility down to 50 meters. Now, according to the weather department, there's a red alert across the city because of this dense foggy conditions. There are flight disruptions, flight cancellations, even the train services are running delayed because of this dense fog. Now this comes amid the forecast of a western disturbance. Now this is a tropical storm which impacts northwest India and triggers a fresh spell of rain and snow over the higher reaches. Now according to the latest forecast of the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, the air quality index in the national capital is likely to remain between very poor to severe levels for the next few days.
Well, the air quality is going to be severe for the next few days. It is going to be a poisonous end, so to say, for Delhiites for 2025. The new year isn't going to bring us any good news either, at least as what the forecast suggests. But what is the one watchdog, the one central body that is supposed to be looking at this and ensuring that steps are taken to mitigate it is doing? The CAQM. That is somebody, that is a body that is answerable to the people of the national capital. Griha, my colleague, in fact, now joins us to give us a sense of what exactly the CAQM has been doing. And if you look at their social media footprint, Griha, every day they put out a certain bulletin at 4 p.m, which we've just got, as to what that day's average AQI is. But that's about it. There's absolutely no other communication that comes in from the CAQM.
Absolutely, Poonam, very rightly put, and this is the reality check that we also would like to put out before our viewers. This is the Twitter timeline of the Commission for Air Quality Management. Remember, Poonam is mentioning this is the statutory body of the government, the watchdog that is required to flag concerns when the air quality deteriorates, and this is what you find on their timeline. Just a short while back, about 10 minutes back, they have put out this 4 p.m. bulletin that they put out every day talking about the air quality, and they are talking about how today is at a very, very severe level, that is 401. This is just shortly been put out. Similarly, in fact, we see a similar timeline that has been put out. Only one concern that they have raised on the 27th of December, where they're talking about how there are significant gaps that have been observed in dust mitigation measures in this area in Gurugram with certain pictures. But what happens to the flagging of those concerns is something that we really remotely have no idea about. What is the CAQM doing? They constantly talk about something like this. They have posted something similar once in a while, of course, in the middle of this 4 p.m. bulletin, talking about the AQI at, again, a very poor category. This is what they do on a day-wise basis. They also talk about some kind of dust mitigation here in Delhi in this particular area, and they say that they are satisfied with those measures. But other than that, no action, no concerns flagged by the CAQM, and that's why we see this implementation, a possible rollback of the GRAP 4 as well, because of which the Delhiites, people in the NCR, suffering from toxic air, the smog that will continue till the end of the year.
And that's the most unfortunate bit. The one body that has the power to do it all, to take action, to be proactive and not reactive, seems to be doing nothing and in deep slumber. For the moment though, Griha, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that. Now, what the problem here is that the CAQM is required to give certain directions to state governments like the Delhi government to take further steps. Whether GRAP 3 needs to be kept in place or GRAP 4 needs to be invoked, all of that direction needs to come in from the CAQM, the central body, which then directs the state government what to do. But the state government, meanwhile, has taken certain decisions nonetheless. Only BS6 vehicles from outside Delhi are allowed entry into the national capital. This has been in place for the last few days, but has that really changed the situation? Not really. BS3 petrol vehicles have been completely banned except only for essential services. As far as BS4 diesel vehicles are concerned, they too are banned except in emergency cases like an ambulance or you have your essential goods that are being ferried. Unless you have a BS4 diesel vehicle that is falling in that category, everything else is banned from entry into the national capital. No fuel for vehicles without a pollution certificate as well. That's something that is being looked into, that's being enforced at multiple petrol stations. But of course, there are loopholes in implementation. All of this looks great on paper, but it's not that it translates on ground for the word that it is. 50% mandatory work from home for government and private sectors has also been put in place. Several schools have also gone online. This is right before the Christmas or the New Year break that most schools have, but they have already decided to go online. And even when the winter break ends, that's when also some of these schools have decided already to be in an online mode and not jeopardize the lives of children by putting them at risk, by making them travel in this hazardous air to and from their school to home. So what exactly is the situation like? It is about 5 p.m. right now. This is usually when, in a few minutes from now, we will see it'll be time for sundown. It'll start getting darker here in the National Capital Region. But all of today really has been filled with fog and smog across. Visibility has been near zero at one point. It has only bettered, but it's not ideal, to say the very least. Simran and Shrishti, my colleagues, now join us, getting us more perspective on what really the city and the National Capital Region really looks like. Shrishti, you're in Noida. Simran, you're in Delhi. But Shrishti, I want to come to you first because over this weekend, We believe that Noida and the adjacent areas in Uttar Pradesh were far worse than Delhi.
Definitely, Poonam, the air quality across the national capital region, which includes Noida as well, has been in the severe category, especially over the last 24 to 48 hours. The visibility has really gone down, especially in wake of the foggy conditions. Now, remember, the weather department had already predicted dense fog would, envelop entire northwest India in the coming days. And we saw how the visibility was down to 50 meters early this morning. It significantly improved over the next few hours, but it's still really bad. An important factor here is the weather conditions are extremely unfavorable. The wind speed is down to 5 kilometers per hour, which is extremely unfavorable for the dispersal of pollutants, and that is why the pollution remains high across the national capital region. It was severe in Noida yesterday. Today it was again severe, and now the overall daily AQI bulletin that CPCB puts out has already indicated that the AQI has already crossed the 400 mark. Now, remember a few days back when there was a slight improvement, the graded response action plan, which is the emergency response action plan, was reduced to stage 3. But now, over the next few hours, we might see the highest level of response, that is the stage 4, coming into effect once again. Now, this was actually predicted by both the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, which comes out with the air quality forecast as well as the weather department. In fact, over the next few days, especially around the New Year's, the air quality is likely to remain between very poor to severe mark, especially around the 31st December or 1st of January. It could again, hit the highest level of severe mark in the wake of the unfavorable weather conditions, because it might snow or rain up in the hills, and the high amount of moisture can combine with pollution to really bring down the visibility. And that is why it's important that people take precautions when they step out. The government has also been urging, but their action, like we just highlighted before by Griha, their action has mostly been on dust mitigation and sprinkling water. But the more water you put out, the more moisture you put out in the atmosphere, it's going to combine with pollutants in the air to make the air extremely toxic. So we could witness another smog episode like we witnessed around 13th to 15th December, which was a severe one. And prolonged exposure to such air quality can really impact your health.
Absolutely. The only respite that we have is that our young are protected in the sense that some of the schools have gone online, and there is going to be a winter break, a New Year break that comes in a day or two, or is already in effect in certain schools. But Simran, as far as the national capital is concerned, you are at Kartavya Path, I believe. But can you actually point out where Kartavya Path is? Because that's how bad the visibility is.
Absolutely, very rightly said, and these are the educated guesses which we can make very easily as we in fact live in Delhi. Over the years we see the situation getting even worse with each passing year, and let me also allow the visual speak for itself. That is where in fact used to be, and it is actually India Gate, and as the visibility has dropped to a significant low amount, to my back none of the in fact buildings or none of the scenes behind this fog is visible. Only trees nearby and the lights that we can see, that my camera can also capture. And at this point, in fact, Poonam, the situation looks like this, as the visuals can capture only the nearby meter surrounding in fact visuals, as the visibility has dropped to a significant low. This morning there was dense fog all around the national capital, and not just that, as the wind speed has actually slowed down, the pollution levels also were seen increasingly, in fact, rampant across the national capital. 19 monitoring stations that have clocked severe category AQI index across the national capital, which increasingly, in fact, is paramount to what situation is being maintained by the CAQM. As you rightly pointed out, there are concerns and questions, as CAQM in their latest bulletins after the revocation of the stage 4 of the GRAP has said that they have monitored and reviewed the air quality in the national capital. When they had revoked it, actually clocked down. The AQI was clocking at 271, and the subcommittee which takes this decision and also reviews all of these measures, they said that it had predicted that the air quality in the national capital is likely to be in the very poor and the poor category. But when we are speaking right now, from the morning itself, the worst air quality quality that the national capital has reported is also around 450 or over the 450 mark. And if my visuals can also show you right now, this is the anti-smog measure or the mist spraying that has been undertaken here in the national capital. This is the NDMC area as well, Poonam, where the mist spray is rapidly done, and on the Kartavya Path as well, while the visibility has dropped to such low levels, but these measures continue to be in place because this is the NDMC area.
Right.
And this is in fact the VIP zone, so these measures are often seen being practiced here by these bodies of the local enforcement. But if we talk about the other sections of the national capital, which are far from the VIP zone, there are hardly any steps that are seen on the roads or even around the monitoring stations of the AQI as well.
Sure. Simran, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. Srishti continues to be with us. Srishti, as far as the CAQM is concerned, the state government of Delhi usually depends on directives coming in from the CAQM as to whether GRAP 3 should stay into effect or GRAP 4 should be invoked. But it looks like it's all really a reaction. They're more proactive, they're more reactive than being proactive. They know these problems arise. Why can't they just act before it actually hits us?
Well, I agree with you, Poonam, here, because these are actually reactive measures. Now, experts tell us that the Graded Response Action Plan is an emergency response plan which kicks into effect as soon as the air quality really deteriorates, But these are very short-term measures. What we really need is a long-term plan to actually solve the air pollution crisis in the national capital. Now, since October 13th, the stage 1 of the Graded Response Action Plan came into effect, and we saw these multiple measures coming into effect, but these are only temporary, and the relief is also temporary. What we need, as I said, is a long-term measures. Now, CAQM had also held meetings with the state governments and those with the neighboring states as well, because when it comes to air pollution, it's not just Delhi, but the adjoining areas as well. Now, the central ministry, that's the Ministry of Environment, also held multiple meetings. Remember, they have now taken into consideration the stakeholders as well. There were meetings held with the departments in Noida as well as Gurgaon. When it comes to how much steps they're really taking on the ground in order to bring down the vehicles on the road, how the end-to-end paving of roads is also happening, whether they're able to control dust measures. But it seems to me, that none of these measures are really actually bringing any improvement in the air quality. And we see these steps being taken only during the winter months, and which again, activists, environmentalists, experts again and again highlight that all these measures should be taken all year round and not just during the winter season. Asking schools to go for hybrid mode or offices to go for online, 50% work from home. These are just short-term measures. What are you really doing about bringing the pollution level down from the actual emission,
Right.
actual sources?
And that's really the question that the CAQM and the governments of both Delhi and Uttar Pradesh need to answer, because every single year, like I said, it's the same story. If you were to watch this broadcast, you probably would feel that you were watching a broadcast from last year, because this is the exact same story we repeat every single year. And every single year, the same assurances come in from our politicians, but nothing really changes for the citizens of the National Capital Region. Well, we'll keep the pressure on our politicians and to ensure that we who deserve better get what we actually deserve, that is cleaner air to breathe every single winter. But for now, it's time for a quick break.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Here's where the critical aspect comes in, Aman. Remember, when the victims sought in 2019 the CBI support and the fact that Sengar be tried under more stringent provisions of a public servant being accused of rape, that point the CBI refused to back him. Now, with this observation coming in, can we expect more serious charges under POCSO?
Well, see, Akanksha, certainly the revelations we made through the Sengar files, the two-part installment series that we did, it clearly showed that CBI could have helped the victim more. In the trial court in 2019, the victim went to the trial court saying that graver charges under IPC must be put against Mr. Sengar, but the CBI did not support that petition, and that was one ground and that was one issue on which the trial court rejected that particular petition by the victim. And now in the High Court judgment, that particular instance has been recorded, where the High Court says that when the victim asked for graver charges, CBI did not support it. Also, the CBI's investigating officer, some grave charges were made against him during the trial court judgment also. The same have been recorded in the High Court judgment also. The victim has gone to the CBI asking for tough action against the investigating officer, whom they allege was in total collusion with the victim. Yes, collusion with Mr. Sengar rather. And though the CBI did get a conviction in the trial court, what is happening now is in the High Court, those technical flaws which were maybe those things which were not tied up properly are now coming to be questioned by the High Court judgment. The number one thing which has really cost the victim is that the High Court ruled that Mr. Sengar can't be considered a public servant under Section 5C of the POCSO Act. Now the Supreme Court is saying that in such a scenario, a police constable is a public servant under the law, but an MLA is not. And the CBI has gone and told the High Court this also, that yes, maybe in one judgment of the Supreme Court this has been ruled that an MLA can't be a public servant, but you have to undertake purposive construction of the same, because this is a POCSO Act with which a minor has been raped. Yes, in the High Court did not listen to that CBI argument, but the Supreme Court seems to be in agreement with the victim and the CBI so far, and that is why the stay has been put on the sentence. It comes with a big relief to the victim, because number two, the Sengar will now not be able to come out of jail. He would not have come out for another 2 years, but this particular relief from the High Court was opening the window for him to come out of jail after another 2 years, once the sentence, another sentence or 10 years which he had been sentenced for the custodial death of the father would have been complete. So the other aspect that we had exposed, that Mr. Sengar got 4 times interim bail in the last 3 years, and then he cited before the High Court that look, at those 4 times there was no threat to the victim. I did not misuse my liberty, and that is what made this High Court note that just because the victim is claiming that she'll be heard, we can't keep Mr. Sengar in jail. So this particular stay by the Supreme Court is also significant in that regard, that Mr. Sengar won't be stepping out of jail neither now, neither after 2 years, depending on what the Supreme Court rules, and that is also a big relief to the victim.
That's why I want to quickly bring in Sumit Chandar. Sumit Chandar, instead of going ahead with the spirit of accountability, the CBI also leaned on that narrow definition of what defines a public servant under POCSO, which was missing so far. That is what sort of strengthened Sengar's case, or defense rather. Now, when the Supreme Court is saying that substantial questions of law are going to be considered, what can we expect in terms of justice? Can we now finally expect the maximum imprisonment, which of course, maximum sentence, which of course means life imprisonment in this case?
See, this case, in fact, it's going to be a very landmark judgment when it comes out. Reason being, of course, the criminal law, it is said that you should be restricted very strictly to what the law is in place. Of course, the investigating authorities don't have the power to go beyond what is the law, and the law is very clearly written in so far as the definition of public servant is concerned under Section 21 of the Indian Penal Code. Now, the interpretation at the same time, when it comes to the Supreme Court, it is also said that the justice cannot be restricted just by the technicalities of law. And that is where Supreme Court may go and expand the definition of public servant and may include, but again, whatever the Supreme Court may decide. But if it does, then by all means, not only in this case, but all other future cases where a public servant, which is an MLA, if he comes within the definition of public servant, will be treated as one, and all such matters will come into an aggravated sexual assault under Section 5C of the POCSO Act as well. So that's a very landmark judgment. We are all waiting to see what happens and what definition is finally construed by the Supreme Court.
Absolutely, and one that's going to have a bearing on other cases as well. Stay with me, Sumit Chandar and Sumit Nagpal. Let's also listen in to one of the reactions that's coming in from the Unnao survivors defense team.
देखिए, किसी ये बच्ची जो थी और इसका परिवार मुझसे ये रोज पूछ रहा था कि क्या अब हम अगले 5 मिनट जिंदा रहेंगे या नहीं रहेंगे। अब कम से कम मैं इन्हें ये बता सकता हूँ कि आपके पास अभी बहुत छोटी सी रिलीफ मिली है। बिल्कुल हमें इसको विक्ट्री नहीं कहना चाहिए, मैं इसको विक्ट्री नहीं कह रहा हूँ, ये विक्ट्री नहीं है, ये एक छोटा सा सांस लेने का मौका विक्टिम और उसको परिवार को मिला है। इसके अलावा इस फैसले को मैं कुछ भी नहीं देख सकता, क्योंकि जो सीबीआई ने जो स्टैंड लिया है, जो हमें डर था वही किया उन्होंने। बहुत लिमिटेड पॉइंट पे स्टैंड लिया है उन्होंने, और जो हमारे सबसे मजबूत ग्राउंड थे उनको रेज ही नहीं किया, जो जजमेंट में भी मौजूद हैं, और अगर सीबीआई के पास तो हमारी रिटर्न सबमिशन भी मौजूद थी ना, जो हमने हाई कोर्ट में फाइल की थी, ना उन्होंने हमसे कंसल्ट किया ताकि हम उनकी पिटीशन बेहतर बनाने की कोशिश करते, ना उन्होंने हमें पार्टी बनाया, और कोशिश ये की कि हमें लास्ट मोमेंट तक उनकी जो एसएलपी फाइल है वो भी ना मिले। तब आज भी, लेकिन मैंने आपको पहले भी कहा है, इस बच्ची और इसके परिवार के खिलाफ इतने ज़्यादा अत्याचार हुए हैं, इतने ज़्यादा सबूत मौजूद हैं कि अगर इतनी सी भी बात की जाएगी ना, तो कोई भी जज, कोई भी अदालत इस बच्ची के ही पक्ष में फैसला देगी। और इसीलिए इस जजमेंट को हम क्रिटिसाइज कर रहे थे कि ये जो दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट की जजमेंट थी, वो इतनी महान दयालुता जो दिखाई थी इस कॉन्विक्ट को, कुलदीप सिंह सेंगर को, जिसको मैं बोलता हूँ एप्स्टीन गैंग के मेंबर हैं, वो इंडियन एप्स्टीन गैंग के मेंबर हैं, उनके बहुत बड़ा गैंग भी है। और आज आप लोगों ने अंदर भी देख लिया होगा कि हम लोगों की संख्या इतनी सी थी उन लोगों की संख्या के आगे, और हमें दोनों तरफ से मुकाबला करना पड़ रहा था, इस तरफ से भी और उस तरफ से भी।
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Here's where the critical aspect comes in, Aman. Remember, when the victims sought in 2019 the CBI support and the fact that Sengar be tried under more stringent provisions of a public servant being accused of rape, that point the CBI refused to back him. Now, with this observation coming in, can we expect more serious charges under POCSO?
Well, see, Akanksha, certainly the revelations we made through the Sengar files, the two-part installment series that we did, it clearly showed that CBI could have helped the victim more. In the trial court in 2019, the victim went to the trial court saying that graver charges under IPC must be put against Mr. Sengar, but the CBI did not support that petition, and that was one ground and that was one issue on which the trial court rejected that particular petition by the victim. And now in the High Court judgment, that particular instance has been recorded where the High Court says that when the victim asked for graver charges, CBI did not support it. Also, the CBI's investigating officer, some grave charges were made against him during the trial court judgment also. The same have been recorded in the High Court judgment also. The victim has gone to the CBI asking for tough action against the investigating officer whom they allege was in total collusion with the victim. Yes, collusion with Mr. Sengar rather. And though the CBI did get a conviction in the trial court, what is happening now is in the High Court, you know, those technical flaws which were maybe those things which were not tied up properly are now coming to be questioned by the High Court judgment. The number one thing which has really...
Thank you so much for staying with us. The Supreme Court has stayed a Delhi High Court order suspending ex-BJP MLA Kuldeep Singh Sengar's life term for the rape of a minor in Uttar Pradesh's Unnao in 2017. The court acknowledged a responsibility to the survivor and noted that the High Court order only dealt with the public servant aspect in this case. The bench also expressed worries as to the law in question and the definition of a public servant itself under the POCSO Act. It noted, and I quote, that if a constable can be deemed a public servant, why not the member of the legislative? The court noted that there is no question of compromise of personal liberty as far as Kuldeep Singh Sengar goes, because he remains in jail irrespective as he's serving a concurrent sentence over the custodial death of the minor's father.
न्याय पर भरोसा है, न्याय हमको दे। सुप्रीम कोर्ट पर धन्यवाद। से खुश हैं। केवल दो जजों ने मेरे साथ गलत किया था, आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने मेरे साथ बहुत अच्छा किया। एक अपना पति खोए बैठी है, वो इंसान, उसके बच्चों को हिसाब मिलना चाहिए, नहीं सीधा फांसी होना चाहिए। मेरे जितने पति हत्यारे हैं सबको फांसी होना चाहिए। सारे बाहर घूम ही रहे हैं। जब हमको भरोसा है तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट पर भरोसा है, हमको न्याय मिलेगा। सुप्रीम कोर्ट का हम धन्यवाद करते हैं।
किस तरीके से इस फैसले को देख रहे हैं, कितनी बड़ी राहत है माता जी?
बहुत राहत हुई, सुप्रीम कोर्ट का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
अच्छा, जो पीड़िता है उनका क्या कहना? आपकी बेटी भी आपके साथ आई हुई है,
न्याय के लिए माँ बेटी पूरा परिवार न्याय के लिए तो सड़कन पर उतर गए। में दिल्ली एक बार यूपी में यही हुआ था और नहीं न्याय मिला, तो आज यहाँ सुप्रीम कोर्ट के दरवाजा खटखटाए। सुप्रीम कोर्ट पर भरोसा है, कोर्ट ने न्याय दिया।
अच्छा, आप लोग अपनी कई बात भी जो है वो रखने का आपको मौका मिलेगा क्या? कुछ जो है वो धमकियों की बात सामने आ रही है कि आपको धमकी भी मिल रही है?
धमकी देते हैं। दीदी कोर्ट जाती है, वहाँ पर जो मेरे पिता को मारा था
धमकी देते रहे। तब तक देवरानी की बहन का वकील साहब का विक्टिम बैठी रही, नहीं फेंक पाए पर एक्सीडेंट तो करा दी कॉलिंग पता के खाली विक्टिम बची रही भगवान के मुंह से हिसाब मिलना था। आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट के सामने फिर हाथ जोड़ के आई है विक्टिम, उसको हिसाब मिलना था, तब तो ये सुप्रीम कोर्ट उनको भगवान ने जिंदा किया।
धमकी लगातार मिल रही है।
जी हाँ बिल्कुल, हमें धमकी लगातार मिल रही है। जो जिन्होंने हमारे पापा को मारा हमने अपनी आंखों से देखा। पुलिस प्रशासन खड़े होकर पानी पी रही थी उनके घर में और वो हमारे पापा को मार रहे थे। बोल रहे थे तुम्हें जितना मारना है तुम मार लो, उसके बाद हम लेके चले जाएंगे।
सिक्योरिटी की भी बात जो है वो सामने आ रही है।
उनके वकीलों ने
नहीं, हमारे पास सिक्योरिटी थी, अब से 4 महीने पहले सिक्योरिटी हमारी छीन ली गई।
उनके नो सिक्योरिटी कहते थे सुप्रीम हाई कोर्ट में, नो सिक्योरिटी कहते कहते मेरी सिक्योरिटी हटवा दिया। खाली पीड़ित
सिक्योरिटी हटी तो उसके बाद कोई खतरा?
उसके बाद हमारे घर में 2 बार गुंडे आए, 2 बार गुंडे फंदवाए कुलदीप सिंह सेंगर ने।
So is this a temporary relief or is this a victory to celebrate? Unnao survivors lawyer Mahmood Pracha is now with us. Thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Mr. Pracha, I want to begin by asking you, right after the verdict came out from the Supreme Court, you said that this was not really a victory, it was just a breather. But do you think that this could be the first step in ensuring complete justice to the survivor?
Well, I am not sure. I will not say something which I don't fully believe in.
Sure.
We will see as the things unfold. But basically, I have been always saying a lot of walk the talk is missing in all the actions which our institutions take. Our programs, our SOPs look very good on paper at times, but when it comes to implementation of those things, then the spirit is completely missing, only the letter remains. That is the basic problem. Second basic problem which our society faces is that we have a short-term memory, and not and justifiably so, because our population is so poor and it is getting poorer and poorer and poorer because of various reasons, including I don't want to comment in this interview, but the way things are going around in our country is visible. 80 crore people are busy with their daily chores just to make their families 2 ends meet. So, but the decision has to be made by the people of the country. If they want their girls to be safe, if they want their women to be safe, and initiative in this regard has to be taken by the women folk themselves, then they have to be on the streets for a long drawn protest, which should be peaceful, which should be organized, and which should be universal, cutting across party lines and all the other caste, creed and other divisive lines which our country these days clearly sees. That is the only solution, and there should be a big agitation which should be launched. On our part, we will do our best to do the legal work. One of the issues which we are going to take up now very, very strongly is to revive that PIL which was closed halfway. And that PIL goes by the name of alarming rise in the girl child's rapes. So that has to be revived, and now this time not just the eyewash kind of proceedings have to be gone into in the Supreme Court, rather definitive, workable, result oriented SOPs have to be developed by the country as one unit. That's one thing which we all need to do right now. Otherwise, this is not an advantage. This is just a breather. And that too in one case. What about Uttarakhand's case? And the most glaring case after this is Hathras's case. What's happening in that? What's happening in Cantonment Board's case? Every single what happened in Asifa's case. I was seeing Mr. Brijbhushan Saran Singh. He was boasting that my victim withdrew the case. This is something which needs to be probed in great detail.
Sure, but coming back to this particular case and the rape of this minor back in 2017 in Unnao, you spoke about the letter and spirit, which is why I want to bring your attention and the attention of our viewers to a specific observation that the court made about how a constable can be a public servant but not an MP or an MLA, not an elected representative. How does that work? That's something that the court also opined on. Do you think that's going to be an important question to be asked and answered as far as this case goes? Because that pretty much was the basis on which the High Court had suspended Sengar's sentence.
See, that, as I've been saying, that CBI did not take up the bigger points which we wanted to raise, but we were not made a party. We were not given an opportunity to even speak. All that is CBI is doing. But this is again on the larger platform of protection of women and especially the girl child. This is a very, very small issue. The larger issue, as I was saying, was that we have to develop an SOP, not just for public servants, but people who are not public servants. People who work with the protection of public servants. People who work with protection of the inbuilt insecurities of the women folk in our country. Even today, this gang, which I call Indian Epstein gang, they have the wherewithal, the money and the muscle power and the manpower and women power to launch a campaign against this poor girl who has lost her father, and she is being projected as a oppressor against who? Mr. Kuldeep Singh Sengar. He was raped, she was gang raped, she was raped, her father was murdered by the police, her aunt, her two aunts, she herself almost got killed, her lawyer got killed, her husband was attacked. I don't know how many things I can repeat here. But yet, who is the victim? Mr. Kuldeep Singh Sengar. And who is the oppressor? This poor girl.
You know, you said something about the CBI not doing its job well, and we here on CNN News 18 have also been exposing how the CBI could have done more and faltered on many occasions as far as the trial court's proceedings went. But now that the CBI says that, look, we filed an appeal, that we are with the victim and we do want to make this right, do you think that they will actually go as far as to ensure that some of those wrongs are now made right? Do you have any amount of faith in the CBI?
In this case, I am not the first one to lose faith. There is a judgment which is ongoing, which has not been set aside as of now. The trial court judgment says so. He was working for Mr. Kuldeep Singh Sengar. He was helping him. I am not saying this. Don't believe my word, please. My word, and please also note that he is being protected, that IO is being protected for obvious reasons by the people at highest level. Even today, no action has been taken against that IO. Rather than taking action against that IO, Sahab, the CBI moves heavens and earth. They've moved an application in the High Court for expansion of the remarks and not for taking further evidence that we have taken action against our IO. He committed a big mistake. We want that these aspects should be further evidence should be taken on these aspects. So this is what points towards a larger conspiracy and involvement of people who are at places which is higher than visible to naked eye. Don't believe my word for this.
Sure.
And I'm saying about this case only. If you go into the details of Mr. Brijbhushan Sharan Singh's case also, Delhi police investigated that. I have had an inkling about that. I can find hundreds of things where complicity of police will be clearly visible. That is the real issue. Nobody is watching the police. Nobody is policing the police. That's become the biggest issue in our country now.
Sure. And those larger aspects will probably be examined as at least observations are made through the course of several cases like in this one as well. But the next hearing, Mr. Pracha, in this case is going to be in about 4 weeks now. What are your expectations actually from the Supreme Court when that hearing happens, or further in this case, even on the merits of the case?
Now, we have an uphill task now. Firstly, we will have to fight to become a party in this case, which is being fought in a half-hearted manner. Because this, see, as I was earlier saying, that this issue of public servant, the public person, MLA not being public servant or being a public servant is a very, very small issue in this case and also in the overall picture for protection of girl child. There are 10 other things. First thing would be that what about security of the victims and the family? That is the single most important reason which has to be ensured. No protection has been granted. Only on a futuristic apprehension or no apprehension, you have given suspension of sentence. That is the biggest critique of that judgment. Secondly, you cannot decide the case without deciding the merits of the case. You cannot go into the merits of the case at all. if you are only talking about suspension of sentence. Third thing would be that more time was taken in deciding this suspension of sentence than would be needed to decide the entire appeal. Fourth thing, number of times the Mr. Sengar's legal team started arguing the main appeal, realizing that they are going to fail despite all the help from CBI. They wriggled out of arguing the main appeal and they asked for suspension of sentence. I don't want to say many things more. I would request your investigation team to go through all the orders in this case. Many more things will come out which I cannot comment upon. How when the bench got changed, their stance used to change. That's the only hint I can give.
Sure. Sure, that's something that we will look into, and we do hope that this does give a sliver of hope to the victim in this particular case. Mr. Mahmood Raja, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18 and sharing your perspective. On that note, it's time for a quick break on this edition of Nation at 5, but news and updates continue here on CNN News 18. Do stay tuned.
Breaking that we have for you, Supreme Court has stayed the Delhi High Court order which had given suspension of sentence to Kuldeep Singh Sengar.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Here's where the critical aspect comes in, Aman. Remember, when the victims sought in 2019 the CBI support and the fact that Sengar be tried under more stringent provisions of a public servant being accused of rape, that point the CBI refused to back him. Now, with this observation coming in, can we expect more serious charges under POCSO?
Well, see, Akanksha, certainly the revelations we made through the Sengar files, the two-part installment series that we did, it clearly showed that CBI could have helped the victim more. In the trial court in 2019, the victim went to the trial court saying that graver charges under IPC must be put against Mr. Sengar, but the CBI did not support that petition, and that was one ground and that was one issue on which the trial court rejected that particular petition by the victim. And now in the High Court judgment, that particular instance has been recorded where the High Court says that when the victim asked for graver charges, CBI did not support it. Also, the CBI's investigating officer, some grave charges were made against him during the trial court judgment also. The same have been recorded in the High Court judgment also. The victim has gone to the CBI asking for tough action against the investigating officer whom they allege was in total collusion with the victim. Yes, collusion with Mr. Sengar rather. And though the CBI did get a conviction in the trial court, what is happening now is in the High Court, those technical flaws which were maybe those things which were not tied up properly are now coming to be questioned by the High Court judgment. The number one thing which has really cost the victim is that the High Court ruled that Mr. Sengar can't be considered a public servant under Section 5C of the POCSO Act. Now the Supreme Court is saying that in such a scenario, a police constable is a public servant under the law, but an MLA is not. And the CBI has gone and told the High Court this also, that yes, maybe in one judgment of the Supreme Court this has been ruled that an MLA can't be a public servant, but you have to undertake purposive construction of the same because this is a POCSO Act with which a minor has been raped. Yes, in the High Court did not listen to that CBI argument, but the Supreme Court seems to be in agreement with the victim and the CBI so far, and that is why the stay has been put on the sentence. It comes as a big relief to the victim because number two, the Sengar will now not be able to come out of jail. He would not have come out for another 2 years, but this particular relief from the High Court was opening the window for him to come out of jail after another 2 years once the sentence, another sentence of 10 years which has been sentenced for the custodial death of the father would have been complete. So the other aspect that we had exposed, that Mr. Sengar got 4 times interim bail in the last 3 years, and then he cited before the High Court that look, at those 4 times there was no threat to the victim. I did not misuse my liberty, and that is what made the High Court note that just because the victim is claiming that she'll be heard, we can't keep Mr. Sengar in jail. So this particular stay by the Supreme Court is also significant in that regard, that Mr. Sengar won't be stepping out of jail neither now, neither after 2 years, depending on what the Supreme Court rules, and that is also a big relief to the victim.
That's why I want to quickly bring in Sumit Chandar. Sumit Chandar, instead of going ahead with the spirit of accountability, the CBI also leaned on that narrow definition of what defines a public servant under POCSO, which was missing so far. That is what sort of strengthened Sengar's case, or defense rather. Now, when the Supreme Court is saying that substantial questions of law are going to be considered, what can we expect in terms of justice? Can we now finally expect the maximum imprisonment, which of course, maximum sentence, which of course means life imprisonment in this case?
See, this case, in fact, it's going to be a very landmark judgment when it comes out. Reason being, of course, the criminal law, it is said that you should be restricted very strictly to what the law is in place. Of course, the investigating authorities don't have the power to go beyond what is the law, and the law is very clearly written in so far as the definition of public servant is concerned under Section 21 of the Indian Penal Code. Now, the interpretation at the same time, when it comes to the Supreme Court, it is also said that the justice cannot be restricted just by the technicalities of law. And that is where Supreme Court may go and expand the definition of public servant and may include, but again, whatever the Supreme Court may decide. But if it...
Welcome back. You're watching Nation at 5, and we have a CNN News 18 exclusive on Khalistani presence, namely certain figures like Paramjit Singh Pamma at overseas protests. Indian intelligence assessments now show a repeated pattern where Pakistan ISI is hijacking legitimate protests overseas. They're using farmers, human rights, minority causes to try and insert Khalistani narratives and whip up this anti-India sentiment. Anand Narasimhan, my colleague, now joins us, getting us more details. Anand, what exactly is happening, and how is it that the ISI is trying to exploit this situation?
Good evening, Poonam, and good evening to our viewers. Now, we covered this over Sunday, the presence of K elements or K goons around the time when the Bangladeshi Hindu and Bharatiya diaspora was actually protesting against the atrocities against minorities in Bangladesh. What were the Khalistanis doing there? Clearly, it was deliberately done so that there is a certain level of deflection, clearly orchestrated by the ISI, deflection away from the Hindu messiah that is on display. Because this is not convenient for the ISI, which is wanting to control the narrative on ground in Dhaka. Now, who is Paramjit Pamma? This is the person who was actually seen among the handful of people who had turned up there at in the UK. Paramjit Pamma was involved in the Patiala and Ambala bomb explosions. Manoj Kumar Gupta getting us these details. Indian authorities have accused Paramjit Pamma of being involved in high-profile blasts in Patiala and Ambala. He is accused in the 2009 assassination of Rulda Singh. Rulda Singh was the head of the Rashtriya Sikh Sangat. Now, due to his alleged links with these kind of terrorist groups and violent offences, security agencies have placed him under NIA's most wanted list for terrorism-related offences. So he is a wanted man, and this is the person who was visible in UK outside or alongside the place where the Bangladeshi Hindu community was standing there, or diaspora in the UK was actually standing and protesting. So, based on the serious charges, Interpol actually issued a red corner notice seeking his arrest and extradition to Bharat, and this was later withdrawn or found non-compliant by the Interpol authorities. But he is a wanted person, he is a Khalistani, he is a separatist, and he has no interest in the safety or well-being of Bangladeshi Hindus. He is nothing but an ISI prop who's been sent there, and that's why this whole issue is being now red flagged. The Indian authorities and the MEA, if it is watching these pictures, will they pick up and raise this issue? Will the Indian embassy in the UK raise this matter? We have to wait and watch. But this is clearly showing how ISI-fied, if I may use that term, is Dhaka right now and the UNIS establishment. The footprint, imprint of the ISI very visible, that there are Pakistani handles, ISPR run handles on social media that are whipping up the frenzy in Dhaka and also trying to counter this Hindu messiah narrative or this Hindu messiah story, to try and deflect that by planting these Khalistani goons wherever such protests are taking place.
And such kind of Khalistani ISI link is not new. We've seen several times in the past as well that such a narrative is being built up with the help of the ISI, or with active help of the ISI, if I may say that. But for the moment, Anand, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. Shifting focus now to what's happening back home. Amid the political showdown over bulldozer action in Bengaluru's Kogilu village, Karnataka Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivkumar today visited the demolition site. This after Congress General Secretary K.C. Venugopal issued a whip for the state leadership, saying that such actions needed extreme caution. Remember, this is after the Chief Minister Siddaramaiah and his government faced massive flack over its demolition drive in the village that led to more than 300 houses getting razed. Spearheading the movement and spearheading this outrage against the state government of Karnataka, it was the Kerala Chief Minister who noted that bulldozer justice was now stepping into South India. The BJP, meanwhile, has quipped to the Congress over Venugopal's reaction, calling him the super CM of Karnataka. But the Congress has slammed the left government, asking Vijayan and the CPIM to not interfere in states' matters.
This is a local issue. We have to safeguard the interest of the health hazard. We don't want illegal people to occupy in a government property. That is why there is a lot of hue and cry in this one. We don't want to create slums in Bangalore. This is a city with a lot of this one. Like, I don't want to comment on other cities, but it is our duty to protect the government properties. We are doing it. If anyone have been affected, if they doesn't have houses, we have an opportunity, we have a provision to give them houses. Definitely we'll help all of them.
What is Kerala's interest in Karnataka's Kogilu?
In all over the country, BJP is doing, or they are introducing bulldozer Raj.
Okay.
Such type of an activity is happened in Karnataka also.
But this is a Congress government here.
Not whether Congress government or BJP government, it is not the problem. Issue is the same. This type of poor people living, staying areas are demolishing by the government. This is not for getting votes.
Okay.
We have no votes here.
Okay.
No election here. Majority of the people, those who are evicted from here, are minorities, especially Muslims.
Well, there have been a flurry of activities here in Kogilu layout, especially with the Deputy Chief Minister, with the D.K. Shivkumar coming and assessing the place. All these people that you have seen here, they were spoken to, they have shown their documents. Several of them have shown their Aadhaar cards, they have shown their ration cards as well. And many of them have said that the land has been sold to them by certain people, and there has been token money also been taken by some of them. What also they have shared with the government is that they have been living here, but the government continues to say that these are illegal encroachments and these people who are staying are doing things. आपसे मैं पूछना चाह रही हूँ, आप बोल रहे थे अभी जो डेप्यूटी चीफ मिनिस्टर डी.के. शिवकुमार जी आए थे यहाँ पे, आपसे आपने डॉक्यूमेंट्स दिखाए, क्या बोले आपसे?
कुछ भी बोले नहीं, वो शाम को रिजल्ट बोलते करके चले गए।
पर आपके पास कितनी दाखिलात हैं? यहाँ पे कुछ लोग पैसे 1 लाख 2 लाख भी दिए हैं यहाँ पे।
नहीं मैडम, खुली बात क्या है मालूम है, 1 रुपया भी किसी को दिए नहीं, कोई भी इधर लीडर नहीं है।
तो आपने घर कैसे बनाया?
घर कैसे बनाया बोला तो मट्टी डालने के लिए ट्रैक्टर लोग आते थे इधर, उन लोग को थोड़ा बहुत मतलब 100 रुपए 50 रुपए देके उन लोग को किधर भी घर फुटा तो लेके आके इधर डालो बोल के ऐसा पैसे दिए थे। हमारे खुद ही के पैसे से हम लोग मेहनत पढ़ के।
पर उनका कहना है, आप मैं समझ गई हूँ, आप अपने पैसे से बनाते हैं अगर बोल रहे हैं आप, पर कुछ लोग का कहना है यहाँ पे उन्होंने कुछ पैसे दिए हैं और यहाँ पे 1-2 लाख करके दिए हैं। पर सवाल और आपसे एक है, अभी आप लोगों को बोला गया है यहाँ से यहाँ शिफ्ट करेंगे आपको। एक उन्होंने हाउसिंग मिनिस्टर जो जमीर साहब है, उन्होंने कुछ वीडियो भी दिखाए, कुछ लोगों को भेजा था यहाँ पे कहते हुए आपको वहाँ पे वो आपको शिफ्ट करेंगे। जाएंगे आप?
हाँ जाते हैं, वो कान देती।
क्योंकि आप बोल क्या उनका कहना है कि ये जो है ये इलीगल है।
नहीं, इलीगल क्या भी नहीं मैडम, ये लीगल है।
हाँ।
94 देने में ना है, किसने बेरोगड़ा जब कितने 10-15 साल पहले दिए थे वो।
तो आपको विश्वास है कि सरकार आपको अलग एक जगह देगी?
विश्वास है मैडम, देगी।
Well, let's shift focus now to some more breaking news that's coming in. This is to do with an extradition request that India has now put forth. The Ministry of External Affairs has sent the request of extradition process against fugitive Hussain Shattaf, who is wanted in connection with the murder of a merchant navy officer. The MEA has confirmed that the ministry has forwarded the extradition request to the Indian embassy in the UAE to expedite the matter, and India is now seeking custody of this fugitive in a 2006 Captain Manmohan Singh Virdi murder case. MEA has confirmed that the extradition request has been forwarded to the Indian embassy in UAE last week, where Shataf is believed to be residing illegally using forged documents. Akanksha, my colleague, now joins us, getting us more details. Akanksha, we're given to understand that the government of India, New Delhi, has initiated these formalities of extradition. Do we have any response from the other side yet?
We are still awaiting a response because remember the request for his extradition has just been sent to the Indian embassy in the UAE, and it's high time it did so because remember Shataf is wanted for the 2006 murder of Captain Manmohan Singh Virdi in Lonavala. He allegedly fled India and used forged documents to reside in the UAE. And so the Ministry of External Affairs has forwarded this formal extradition request. India, of course, is very much committed to bringing back wanted criminals. In fact, India's External Affairs Ministry spokesperson has also confirmed that Hussain Shataf is facing charges of murder as well as multiple other criminal cases, including forgery and the use of fake documents to obtain a passport, and several cases have been registered against him by the Mumbai police under various sections of the law. And investigating agencies are alleging that after being charged in the murder case, Shataf fled India. He's been residing illegally over there. So confirming that the process has formally been set in motion, the MEA spokesperson, Mr. Ranveer Jaiswal, has already confirmed that the extradition request has been sent to the Indian embassy in the UAE. And speaking on the government's efforts, Mr. Jaiswal has said that all necessary steps have been taken to ensure the return of fugitives to India, and that India remains fully committed to ensuring that individuals who are wanted by law in India are brought back to the country for this purpose. They are in discussions with several governments and the processes are underway. That's also indicating India's efforts as far as other high-profile extradition requests, Poonam, that involve various other economic offenders like, say, Vijay Mallya in the UK, Nirav Modi, Mehul Choksi, both in UK and Belgium, accused in major bank frauds. So we'll have to see, given India's strong bilateral relationship with the UAE, we can expect some forward movement as far as Shataf's extradition request is concerned. Remember, he's also, according to the Bombay High Court, he recently issued a notice to the Home Affairs Ministry regarding the delay in his extradition. The court had directed the Maharashtra government to actively pursue his extradition, and which is why it's now become incumbent upon the MEA also to take speedy and swift action, Poonam.
Right, Akanksha, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. We'll, of course, keep an eye out on what happens next. Shifting focus now to some news from the cricketing world. Smriti Mandhana has scripted history in Thiruvananthapuram. She's become the fastest woman to reach 10,000 international runs as India post a record 221 against Sri Lanka. Smriti Mandhana and Shefali's massive stand powers India to yet another dominant win. I'm leaving you with that story.
Smriti Mandhana continued her remarkable rise in women's cricket by reaching a major career milestone on Sunday, scripting history during the 4th Women's T20I against Sri Lanka in Thiruvananthapuram. India's vice-captain became only the 4th woman batter in international cricket to cross 10,000 runs across formats, underlining her consistency and impact at the highest level. The historic moment arrived in the 7th over of the Indian innings when Mandhana tapped a quick single to move past the 10,000 run mark in international cricket. With that, she joined an elite club featuring former India captain Mithali Raj, New Zealand great Suzie Bates and England legend Charlotte Edwards. The milestone carried even more significance as Mandhana became the fastest woman to reach 10,000 runs, achieving the feat in her 281st international innings, bettering Mithali Raj's record, who had taken 291 innings to get there. Having often struggled to convert promising starts into big scores in the ongoing series, Mandhana made sure this innings counted. The left-hander brought up a 32nd T20I half-century in the 12th over, but was eventually dismissed for 80 for 48. Asked to bat first, India got off to a flying start thanks to Mandhana and her opening partner Shefali Verma. The duo went on the offensive right from the outset, dismantling the Sri Lankan bowling attack and racing to 61 runs in the power play. In the process, they also brought up their 24th 50-plus partnership, the most by any pair for any wicket in women's T20Is. The opening pair went on to stitch together a massive 162-run stand, the highest partnership for any wicket in women's T20Is, setting the stage for India's record-breaking total of 221 for 2, their highest score in their format. In reply, Sri Lanka showed early intent through Hasini Perera and captain Chameria Tapattu. Perera struck a brisk 33 of 20 balls, while Atapattu led from the front with a fighting 52 of 37 deliveries. However, the steep target eventually proved beyond their reach. Indian bowlers tightened the screws in the latter half of the chase, with Vaishnavi impressing with figures of 2 for 24. Sri Lanka finished on 191 for 6, handing India a commanding 30-run win. The hosts lead the series 4-0, with the final game to be played on Tuesday in Thiruvananthapuram.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. On November 9 in Dehradun Selekwe Market, 24-year-old MBA student Angel Chakma from Tripura stepped out for groceries and never returned. A son, a brother, a student